Hey, Karita here with another one of our habits for highly effective dance educators. If we have done four so far, if you haven't seen the other ones, go back and check out habits 1 through 4. Those habits really build up to where we are with habits 5 and 6. It's very much the first habits are very much about the first three, particularly, are about building ourselves up as individuals and looking at who we are as individuals, human beings, as educators, all of that. And then as we get into, habits 4, 5, 6, it's about our interaction with other people. And in this case, we're talking about our students. And this is something we could talk about in life. And this habit for me is certainly, my website should be takeyourownadvicekarita.com, because this is something that I am working on in my daily life. And I'm sure other people are too. So this habit number 5 is called seek first to understand, then be understood. This is, of course, from The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey, right? Great book. So I want to focus on this as dance educators in this context. Of course, that's who we are. And so thinking about it in context, maybe thinking about the opposite might help. So if we think about the idea of I am listening to somebody with the intent to reply, reply quickly, as opposed to I am listening to a person with the intent to truly understand them and then have communication. Right now, like we want to reply to people. It's like, of course, I'm listening so I can reply, but we don't want our conversations to be monologues, right? If we're trying to have true dialogue with our students, then we have to really listen a bit more deeply to what they're saying, to what they're asking, and allow our communication to be influenced by them. And that's a tricky part, I think. And that's where communication gets vulnerable, as that it's not just like me as a teacher on a soapbox, but it's I can be influenced by what this beginning dance student has to say, by what this 10-year-old dance student has to say, whoever, right? Beginner, adult, advanced 11-year-old, like we can be influenced by them, right? We can get feedback from them. We can get questions from them that can actually influence the way that we communicate, the way that we teach. Now, one of the telltale signs that I have seen, certainly, I'll say, first of all, in my work with tap dance teachers inside of my online tap teacher training program, is that there's so many people who come to the program with a certain amount of frustration with the way that their classes are going, of course. So there's like, comments like, okay, my students just don't get it. They give up very easily. They're so easily frustrated. Tap is the first thing that they drop because they think it's too hard to learn. Things like that, right? My students just don't get it. They just don't, kids don't learn the way they used to. I used to pick up, these kids just don't pick up, like all kinds of different, comments that I hear from dance teachers. And I think to myself that if we listen a little bit deeper to our questions, if we observe our students' frustration in a little bit of a deeper way, then we might come away from our classes with more than they just give up so easily. That's just 21st century kids. That's just who they are. But we can think a little bit differently about it and ask ourselves some questions. To challenge us as educators to say, do we have different gears to our pedagogy, right? Do we have different gears to our pedagogy? So many people come to my tap teacher training program because they realize that they don't have enough gears. They don't have enough tools in their toolbox to meet the needs of the average student. We're so used to learning the way that we were taught. And a lot of us that are teachers in any style, we picked up. That's part of why we still teach, right? Because we just kind of got it. We were, I was one of those kids. I'm sure you were one of those students that just kind of got it. You kind of felt it, and then you did it. It didn't take a whole lot of hand holding for you, so you don't think it should take a whole lot of hand holding for them. But we know that dance is for everybody, right? And so we want to make sure that our pedagogy can meet the needs of the average student, can meet the needs of the struggling student, right? That we can meet their needs too, and not just go, this may not be for you, right? So even if they're not going to be on world stages that they can make progress in our classes. And that's definitely the kind of educator that I have strived, I don't know the right, strive to be, at, certainly as a tap teacher, that, whether it's somebody who walked in off the street and has never done anything before, or somebody who's advanced, that I can meet them where they are, and help them get to another level. But that means that there has to be gears to my pedagogy, right? So if my students are easily frustrated, then I've got to ask myself several questions. There's a lot of self-reflection in that. Is what I'm giving them too difficult, or am I just not giving them the right tools to bridge the gap? Right? So I want to be thinking in those different ways so that I can meet my students where they are, and not just be like, just do it again, just do it again. It's like repetition has its place. But if they're repeating bad technique, quote unquote, if they're, repeating something that's not working over and over again, that's what I should say, then that's not going to help. You're just going to build in muscle memory into your students to do something that's ineffective that you don't want them to do. So sometimes repetition isn't the answer. Sometimes it's just having the right screwdriver, a little tweak, but really hearing our students. Sometimes I'll say this to my students, I'll give an explanation. And if I see blank faces, I just put it out there like, well, did that make sense? And sometimes they'll reluctantly say, yeah, because that's what they think I want to hear. Yeah. I'm like, you can tell me if it doesn't make sense. And then somebody will be like, well, what did you mean by this? Well, what did you mean by this? Well, here's what I'm really having a challenge with. And I kind of try to create space in my classes so that my students start to understand what they need, right? So even sometimes if that's like, everybody take 60 seconds for yourself. I'm going to watch the clock. Everybody take 60 seconds for yourself to work on this exercise. And then we're going to come back and talk about what happened in your 60 seconds. And then students can start to tell me more clearly, like, oh, I think I have it. I just need some more practice. We take a look at it. I think I'm just not getting the concept at all. And making it okay to say those things in my class without me getting frustrated and being like, oh, these students just don't get it, right? And me being in that place, but me being really influenced by what the students need. So if they need a little bit more reps, then I'm like, cool, let's do more reps, right? If I see that they're really not getting something, then I go, did I over choreograph this? Because sometimes I do that. Did I over choreograph this? Was I clear about those transitions? Do I know what it is? Like really asking myself those questions so that I can really meet the students where they are, right? And so that's what I think this part of it is about. So now when it comes to something like teaching about race and dance history, I have a program called Roots Rhythm Race and Dance, and it's a 6-week professional development program where I'm helping dance educators to talk with their students about the history of different dance forms, cultural dance forms. And so people get like, people come to the program and they're like, well, I really just, I want to know exactly what to say to 11-year-olds. Just, tell me exactly what to say. And I've had people even look at my 6-week program and go, okay, can I like a la carte, like week 2 and week 3 out of your program? Because I don't think I need this. I don't think I need this. And I go, well, interestingly, week 1 is beliefs. It's not, here's what we're going to say, or here's, like how to introduce it. First week is beliefs. If we don't understand our students' beliefs, if we're not clear on our beliefs, then the rest of it really doesn't matter. Right? So if we're dealing with students who are disinterested, distracted, or students that are really passionate about wanting to learn about history, it changes the way we're going to deliver the lesson. Not whether we're going to deliver it, but it does change how we might start, how we might meet our students where they are. Be okay with where they are and be willing to go there and meet them and serve them, right? Because this is about, they're our quote unquote clients, so to speak. So we want to be of service to them, but it's hard to come in and like give your stamped out thing, your template of, like I'm going to plug and play this exercise. I'm going to plug and play this lesson about, Bill Robinson, without having some understanding of who your students are and how to engage them, right? That's the difference between students coming to us for dance lessons and for them going to YouTube, right? That's one of the things, is that they get a special kind of attention from us as educators, even when we're on Zoom, or in a huge class, that people are coming to have an experience with us. Students want to feel seen. Students want to feel understood. And when they don't, they're the ones that end up hiding out in the back corner, kind of arms folded, eyes down, that kind of stuff, lacking belief in themselves, whatever. So we want to make sure that our students get that experience of feeling seen, feeling heard, etc. in our classes where we're talking history lessons and talking about different, challenging topics, and being able for us to navigate those questions that students might have or ideas that our student might have, navigate that with poise, whether we're looking at that kind of a skill set or we're looking at teaching technique in a TAP class where we're like coming in thinking that we're going to have this plan with a group, and you can see right away that that plan isn't going to work. You have to figure out how to adjust, right? We don't write off all of our students because we want everybody to feel welcome in dance class. Dance is for everybody. So we want to make sure that in order to give students that experience, that we are willing to be influenced by what they need, right? So that's how I see this idea of seek first to understand, then be understood in the context of us as dance educators, that we have the gears in our skill set, in our qualities, and how we're stepping into the class to meet our students where they are, to see our students, to hear our students, to truly observe them before we just like, oh, okay, I know what to do. Oh, okay, I know what to do. And sometimes we do. We've been teaching, like I've been teaching for 20 years. Like I know what the issue is, right? And so we kind of have that thing. But sometimes it's very valuable to just pause and be like, I can see that several people are having this issue. That means that I need to fix something, right? That means that I need to make an adjustment. Even if it's one student sometimes, I want to be able to have another gear in my communication. The great Arlene Kennedy, tap dance educator, told me that one time I got to meet her, said, you want to be able to explain the same thing in a lot of different ways. You're talking to a lot of different students. In other words, meeting them where they are and understanding that and being okay with that, right? So that's how I feel about habit number 5. For us as dance educators, seek first to understand, then be understood. Now, obviously, this is a communication issue that affects every aspect of our lives. So whether you have a spouse, or you have, or you have, your parents or your children or your sister or your roommate. And it's like, did you hear anything I just said? There's no way you heard what I just said because you were already responding in the middle of my sentence. Right? Don't even get me started. You know what it is. But think about how that principle, that habit might apply in our lives. I mean, certainly at this time in the world, we're like reevaluating everything, like the way that we do business, the way that we live our lives, and all of this. So I think this is a great habit to reflect upon as dance educators, as human beings. Habit number 5, seek first to understand, then be understood, right? You love this one? Check out the previous 4, of course. Stay tuned for the next ones. Check out my website, karitagriffith.com, all the good things, and see you in the next video.